So today I watched 2020's Monster Hunter because my dad bought it on Blu-ray and I had to suffer through it, so here are my thoughts. Why am I doing this video and it has nothing to do with my normal content? Don't ask, just accept. Overall, as far as video game movies go, this goes back to the old classic trope of completely fucking it up at a conceptual level because they've decided one of the core focal points of the film will be the crossing over between the world of Monster Hunter and the dead-ass real world of modern-day Earth. A concept I don't really understand because I feel like it undermines the very point of a Monster Hunter film. After all, who is this film even for? Is it for people who haven't played the games? Well, clearly not, because the film doesn't really give you much of a sense of the world of Monster Hunter, nor does it establish the names of any character aside from Milla Jovovich, who plays a character so incredibly boring that I forgot her name until she showed up back here in the modern day and people said it out loud, and then I immediately forgot it again. Is this film for people who played the games? Well, I'm not exactly sure why those people, including me, would have ever thought that they wanted to see the world of Monster Hunter but with guns, helicopters, and tanks. Because I wanted to watch a video game movie where giant monsters fight modern day weaponry, I'd watch Rampage, because at least it makes sense in that film. Or I just go watch Pixels, because I feel like if I wanted to see that, I'd hate myself enough to actually want to watch Pixels. So I can only conclude that this movie was for the few people who played Monster Hunter but secretly actually wanted to play Call of Duty at the time and wanted to vent out their frustrations about it onto the monsters. Speaking of which, one of the only good things about this movie would be the special effects. The 3 main monsters of the film all look really nice, so the selection was somewhat standard and predictable, and I wish there was more variety. You might have noticed that I said one of the only good things, implying there's more than one, and that's true because this film also had Tony Jaa in it, an actor I really like and have been following since the 2003 film Ong Bak Muay Thai Warrior, a film that I would recommend far more than this one. Tony Jaa is a blessing to watch in this film due to his natural charisma and the fact that I really like him. Despite this, he has literally no name and honestly no personality outside of just being Tony Jaa. However, just being Tony Jaa is more than I can say for Milla Jovovich, who doesn't have any character or personality whatsoever, is a complete drag, isn't likable, funny, or even the slightest bit quirky, and has all the personality of a bowl of chicken noodle soup made from instant noodle powder and cold water. I'm sure Milla is a far more charismatic person in real life, but in this film she essentially plays every generic military person ever, but this time she's put into a live-action isekai anime that for some reason has Monster Hunter monsters in it. As for the other characters, there's a First Fleet commander who I only know from the games, and even then the whole time to me he was just Ron Perlman in a stupid wig, and is only notable for punching Milla Jovovich in the face, which made me happy because I thought it meant she'd shut up for a moment, but that simply wasn't the case. You might be wondering what the plot of this movie is, and about 3/4 of the way through I began to wonder the same thing, because essentially all that happens for most of it is that Milla Jovovich and her team drive into a storm, they get yeeted into another dimension, and everyone but her dies until she meets Tony Jaa and the killer Diablos. After that, they meet the First Fleet commander who tells them of a magic sky tower that takes them to the other world. You might think this tower has great significance to the climax, but while technically it does, they don't actually do anything to it, they just vaguely walk up to the vicinity of it, where they're intercepted by a Rathalos for no good reason. Which kinda makes me wonder if they intended for this scene to be with a bell end like Basilgeuse and not Rathalos, something I wonder more and more as I realize that its venomous tail was never once brought up, and for some reason they attack with fire element weapons even though that wouldn't do anything to a Rathalos. Anyway, so our great final battle involves Milla Jovovich falling into a magic sky portal into her world and the Rathalos blowing up a few tanks until she shoots one thing into its mouth and Tony Jaa pelts it with arrows and it dies. Then the film ends all of a sudden with a Gore Magala showing up for no good reason and teasing us with a cool fight we don't get to see, and hopefully we never see, because a follow-up to this movie using the same premise as combining Sword Art Online with Monster Hunter doesn't really deserve to get past the concept stage. So what do I think of the film? Well, I didn't like it. The story barely exists for most of the film and is left unresolved when it does show up. Kinda like that one co-worker who always shows up drunk, shits his pants on the way to the elevator and tells his boss that his dog ate his homework. The characters have all the personality and depth of a background extra in the first volume of RWBY, and the only reason you'd even consider going to watch would be to see the cool monsters, but at that point if you want to see a Rathalos or a Diablos, you might as well just play a fucking Monster Hunter game, because the graphics of Monster Hunter World are good enough that it might as well be the same models as the actual film. And if you really want to see a giant monster destroying the military, just watch any kaiju film. So really the only reason to watch this would be if you're in that extremely tiny niche that want to see a Rathalos destroy some military vehicles, or if you have nothing better to do and don't feel like using your money for firewood and would want to find an even less worthwhile way to spend it. I've been Nemesis and that was my review for this really crappy film.